He is a world-renowned commentator, editor, teacher, public servant, and was an advisor to presidents for a quarter of a century.
David Gergen is here with us today. Professor Gergen, you've been a White House advisor to quite a handful of presidents. In your experience, what makes a great president?
A good question, Chrissy, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and to be with your fellow students here at Lynn University. What makes a great president? You know, the most important thing a president has to do is to master or confront the challenges of his times or her times. Every new decade brings fresh challenges for the United States, and what a president's job is to understand the nature of the challenge, to face up to it, to educate the public about what we're facing, and then persuade people to act together as Americans, not divisively, but in a united way, to meet those challenges. And from my point of view, that not only takes a sort of an inner flame, an inner drive on that part of that president. You've got to be a tough person whose ambition is to really change things. But it also, you really have to know your stuff. You have to have good judgment. But finally, Americans most appreciate a president who they can trust. Persuasion is an important part of leadership. It's the essence of leadership. And in order to persuade people, to have them follow you, to have them do what you're asking, they have to trust you. And that means for trust, you have to have good character. You have to have character. They have to believe in you. It's not enough just to say, go do this. They're not going to do that unless they feel, this is somebody I really like, I respect, and I really do trust.
You said in your book, The Eyewitness to Power, The Essence of Leadership, you refer to Reagan as the great communicator.
Yes.
In your opinion, what is a great, or what makes a great communicator?
Well, you've got the makings of, where are you from?
South Africa.
South Africa. That's a good accent. I didn't think it was Australian. I kept on trying to place that. Where are you from in South Africa?
Cape Town.
You're in Cape Town? You go up there in that beautiful mountain, go up there and watch the sunsets?
Yes.
Yeah, you probably drink a lot of beer up there too, right?
I don't drink beer. I drink wine.
Okay, good. President Reagan said as he was leaving office, his final speech to the American people, he said, if I was a great communicator, it was because I had great things to communicate. Communication is about more than sitting in a chair and being attractive or charismatic or using fancy words, although those are all important. Communication is also about ideas. Can you appeal to people's imaginations? Can you open up a sense for them of what the future could be like? You know, one of the reasons that Martin Luther King's speech was so famous in 1963 at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, because he had this dream, he had this vision, and he talked about the day when the color of people's skins would be less important than their character, the content of their character, and that dream really inspired millions of people. He was a great speaker. He had great oratory, but what he had most importantly was a dream, and that's what gives people a lift. One of the reasons that Barack Obama is stirring so many hearts today is that he seems to be a visionary. He seems to have this sense of hope about the future. One of the things that Reagan had was he had a contagious optimism about the future, but it wasn't just any future. He had a sense of what he was trying to build. Martin Luther King did that. Nelson Mandela in South Africa had this great dream of reconciliation and a diverse society that was able to come together. And look, that dream has made Mandela and made South Africa the talk of the world.
And on the topic of Reagan, many people believe that Reagan ended the Cold War. What is your take on that?
I believe Reagan did not end the Cold War, but I do think he deserves credit for accelerating the end of the Cold War. I think it was going to come anyway. Eventually the Soviet Union was going to collapse from within, but what Reagan did was to hasten that process, and for that he deserves a lot of credit.
Okay. In conclusion, what is your take on the upcoming election?
This is what one would call a propitious time to run as a Democrat, because the landscape is so bleak for the Republicans. But that does not mean it can't change. And
right.
an individual Republican, at the moment, Rudy Giuliani is the favorite, but that could also change. 6 months ago, John McCain was the favorite. So things can change rapidly, and they will change on both the Democratic and the Republican side. But right now, you'd have to say the odds. It's more likely the Democrats will win the White House, and therefore it's a really important nomination fight. At the moment, Mrs. Clinton is clearly ahead. She has not only the name recognition, but she's got the team, she's got the experience, and she has been a very good senator. What she has not been able to do as well, Chrissy, is that she has not been able to change the persona that people have in their minds about who she is. In New York, she's changed, but if you go west of the Hudson River, you go out to places in the Midwest, or you go into the South, as you know, you go into a place like Georgia. I'm from North Carolina. I can tell you that there, she's still seen as this woman with snakes coming out of her head. You know, people have this terrible impression of her, which is not really the real Hillary Clinton.
Well, I agree.
But it's hard to change people's views quickly. So she's going to have to continue working on that. I think one thing that's working against her, and we can see the hook is here. They're trying to wave us off. But just to finish this up, she is. Obama is now running as a candidate of change, as a candidate of hope. That was the role that she was going to play. We've always looked upon her, and I think you probably grew up thinking that she was a pioneer, the woman who's going to make change. And unfortunately, her campaign has turned her into a person of the establishment, of the status quo. She has to get beyond that. She has to get back to that sense of freshness that she represented. And then I think she's got a good chance. And by the way, one thing she does have, she has a lot of poise. Both of you have that. So we appreciate
Thank you so much.
Okay, it was good to see you both. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right.
I'm Christy Thibodeau.
And I'm Ashley Evans, reporting for Lynn University.